Hey, how's everyone doing out there? Welcome to the Wordle Media presentation of Major League A-Holes in the Hole. Sponsored by Revolution Brewing. I'm Pete.
Wow. I'm Ryan. Well, you are in the hole with Major League A-Holes, presented by Revolution Brewing. Episode 111. This is going to be an interesting one because we have one team that is above 5. No, you are 500 now.
Yeah. Back to 500.
The White Sox
should be 2 games above 500, but
yeah. White Sox are at 500.
That's a different podcast.
That's the thing. We're not even going to talk about the fucking White Sox. If you're looking for White Sox talk, you're in the wrong place. You need to go to our other podcast, Sox Type Thing, which we recorded episode 7 of on Monday. That's been out since Tuesday morning. So check that out. So we will not speak of the walk-off loss today in Colorado.
Would have been about 1 hour of Rusapalooza today.
Ooh, yeah, that just ended about 5 minutes before we went on the air here. So I'm gonna try and calm Pete down here and change the subject. Talk about other things, mediocre baseball.
Yeah, we'll talk about it's just a it's turned into a shitty podcast pretty much.
Yeah, we've had a hell of a week. It's a revolution on the A-hole standings as your White Sox actually took first place.
It's a revolution bear too.
Yes, in the standings because every other fucking team is below 500. This is unprecedented how shitty the Giants, the Tigers, the Cubs, and the A's are. But we're gonna talk about those teams. The Cubs are actually on a 6-game winning streak, which is kind of bizarre.
It is bizarre.
My Tigers had a walk-off win this afternoon and actually beat the Padres in this last series. They could have actually swept the series. That's another crazy thing. The fucking A's just swept the Houston Astros, maybe the worst team sweeping the best team in baseball. We're going to talk about that a little bit and plenty of other things to do with those teams. And we've got a little shit you couldn't make up, and we're going to drop in an asshole of the week here. So I am not a hypocrite because it involves one of my Detroit Tigers, my beloved Detroit Tigers. So
did you mention, and we're going to talk about the Giants too, by the way, even though it's painful.
I'm sorry. Yes, we will be getting into some gigantism. I might even drop in an asshole, but I think you might be ahead of me on that one. So we'll see when we get there. We're keeping these things as a mystery to each of us. So we'll find out what happens. So let's go ahead and jump into the news. I mean, it's kind of old news now, though, considering how much has happened this afternoon already. But we're going to start out with my Chicago Cubs, who, as I mentioned, are on an inexplicable 6-game winning streak, which kind of speaks to how things may have been if they had a bit of a pitching staff intact this whole season and hadn't suffered some injuries and other issues. But alas, at the same time, as the Cubs swept a playoff potential team with the Philadelphia Phillies, which I think that potential might be going down the drain.
Yeah, I wonder, what do you think after that?
I don't know what to think about anything at this point.
I mean, how do you address the season at that point? I mean,
yeah. Well, I mean, of course the Cubs beat up on the Pirates in Wrigley, but the most newsworthy and memorable moment of both those series is essentially I've seen it reported as a 17-second long emotional embrace between Willson Contreras and Ian Happ in the dugout, as
Jesus,
most likely it is the final time Willson will be in a Cubs uniform in Wrigley Field, and potentially the last time for Ian Happ. I think it's less likely that Ian Happ will be traded just because he's under control through next year at least. Contreras we've talked about many times. He might be one of the hottest commodities on the trade market. I've actually seen rumors where he could possibly be going to the Mets in a package deal with Dave Robertson, which I think makes a lot of sense. Those are my two highest valued trade assets that the Cubs actually had. Episode we did, I think it was episode 108, maybe. It was a few weeks ago, but I think that those kind of deals make sense. The only thing that makes me question that is that we're hearing about this before it actually happens, which tends to make me think that that's not really the case. Usually these these deals get done and they're kind of shocking, or maybe you hear more about it, within an hour or two of it actually happening. And this has been a couple days that this rumor's been out. So not sure the validity. It does make sense on the surface. So that could be just journalists' reckless speculation or educated speculation, however you want to.
Eduardo Escobar is a Chicago White Sox.
We've seen it before. Seen
Craig Kimbrell I forget where he was going. He ended up on the White Sox. Bob didn't have that one. So, I mean, I also heard, for Contreras, I heard Houston Astros, which I think makes a lot of sense because I think their catchers are are the lowest producing catchers in all of baseball or something like that. And that's kind of like that and first base for them are the final pieces of the puzzle, really, to push them.
Yeah. And I think we mentioned that on our reckless trade speculation podcast a few weeks ago. The only thing, and that's kind of where we brought up the tricky thing with a catcher being traded, is that he's got to learn your entire starting staff. So if you are obviously a contending team trading for a catcher, it's a little nebulous, in that it kind of throws a wild card in there that, a new catcher trying to learn the staff. You certainly don't want to hurt a strength of your team. Obviously, if you've gotten this far and are a playoff contender, your rotation is probably solid. So it's interesting. I think the Astros, you can tell they just kind of don't give a shit about catcher production because they get production from everywhere else, except for this week in Oakland, which I'll get to later on, which is just fucking crazy week in baseball already. We are, what are we, 6 days away from trade deadline? So shit's going to get even crazier. I'm going to just transition right over. That's enough for the Cubs.
The Cubs.
Unless you had more.
Well, I don't know. Don't you? I think the only thing about the Cubs is I would find it funny if somehow neither player were traded and all the hugs and tears and.
Oh,
like I guess you kind of know.
I think that's impossible.
I think it's impossible. Contreras is not traded.
Yeah.
Or Dave Robertson, but they're not the ones hugging. Dave's been there for half a season essentially. But I mean, like it is weird now, right? Because when we grew up watching baseball, there wasn't this kind of information out there, and you kind of never saw guys like reacting like this is my last game, like 5 days or 6 days before a trade deadline. This is my last game I'm ever gonna play here. Like it's just so weird now. And I'm watching Contreras well up as he's speaking to the media, and his seems like super legit. And I know Ian Happ's really having a great year, but he's also like a guy you could keep around and build around. So to your point, like, I don't know that that's a done deal. And I don't know if it's really worth trading him because he's had a great season, but he's not going to net you like the potential guys like Robertson, because of Robertson could be coming to the White Sox for Christ's sake after Joe Kelly walked off the mound, possibly injured again. Yeah. But like,
can you give us a good second baseman this time for our closer?
Yeah, you can have Josh Harrison. Or Lou Ray Garcia is available for me, as far as I'm concerned. It's a different podcast. I could do an hour. Anyway, so what I'm saying about that is, like, I think I'm with you on this for sure. Like, I don't know, like, you trade Ian Happ. Like, he's a solid dude. He's probably
at the peak of his value right now.
Right. So but then you have to measure, like, he's at the peak of his value. Is there a potential though that he does? Because now he's definitely playing every day now. So it's a little bit different for him. Like, is there that potential that he's going to go? Is it worth hanging on to him for maybe even another year? Because he's going to go a little bit higher. Like, I don't know. Or can they build around him? I mean, exactly. That's a conundrum. Like, I think you can. I think you've got to have. Like, as great as like the stories of Schwindel and Wisdom and those guys are, they're not guys you're building around. They're in they're in their early 30s. Like,
Happ's not the center of the.
He's not the center, but he's a guy. He's a veteran and a veteran presence, and someone who knows the town, the organization, like the whole thing that makes new players feel comfortable when they come in.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know.
Everybody loves him too. So
yeah, he's a great dude. He bought
he's
all
a fellow podcaster. If you're not listening to the Compound, his John Boy podcast, you should do that. It's good. It's a really cool insider's look. I mean, it's just he and his two buddies that are, former Cubs prospects. Well, one's Zach Short in the Tigers system now, and Dakota, what's his fuck? I always forget his name. He's with the Iowa Cubs, but they were all roommates for a couple of years, and they're just like you and me, but they have way more real information than you and I do, as they are real professional baseball players. But
all I know is we have better information, folks, than Chuck Garfien and that crew over there. That's all I'm going to say.
Him tonight a little bit, but
well, I know I got involved too. But,
yeah.
But anyway, I mean, it just I think we're in the same path on what the Cubs absolutely have to do. But I just was kind of laughing to myself. I'm like, what happens if no one gets traded and they're like all like saying goodbye? But I think I think Happ thinks that maybe his last game, but he's really in that moment probably just saying bye to Willson Contreras for sure.
Yeah, exactly. That's the way you could look at that. But it was framed as both of them are going to be gone by the media.
I know.
The other part of that is the Cubs' MO, as we've seen over the last 2 years, is they don't trade anyone a year too early. They trade them as their contracts are expiring. That is, everyone is being, including Contreras this year, but last year all those contracts were expiring, so they waited until that final year to trade everybody. So maybe that's the same strategy they take with Happ. I think that's probably more of a coincidence than anything. But
did you real quick? I did want to ask.
We've got plenty of time.
I did have a Cubs question to ask you. Did you see that story? It's not an ASCO question, but it's just well, it could be an ASCO question. I mean, seriously, like it got reported by Jesse Rogers that Willson Contreras hasn't had a contractual talk with the team since 2017. And I guess the question is, why have they been so adverse to?
They've never even spoken with his agent?
Yes. Yeah. And since 2017 is what the report was from Jesse Rogers. And I don't understand. It almost seems like they were somewhat adverse to keeping the some of the pieces from the World Series team around. And it doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
I mean, that's not the case with the other. With all the others, they just couldn't come to agreements. I mean, we've already heard the reported negotiations with Rizzo from last year. Everyone else, but you still there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. Yeah, you're locked up actually, but maybe I'm locked up. I'm gonna give it a minute here.
Just joking around. You're right over there?
Yeah, now I can hear you. Oh, what was I talking about?
The contracts and like Contreras and the other World Series.
I think, I mean, specifically to Contreras, if he, I mean, I haven't heard that with any other of the negotiations they've done. It's not like they've shut everybody out since 2017. The only thing I can think of, if that report is true, is it's different with Contreras, as they might just have an organizational philosophy that they're not going to hold on to a 30-year-old catcher, which I'm not totally opposed to. It's a little strange that they wouldn't at least speak to him, like speak to the agent and see where he was at. Maybe he wanted to sign a 1 or 2 year deal, which wouldn't be bad. But I mean, he's probably going to be looking for a 5-year deal, considering he's the top catcher on the market. But trying to lock in that longevity. But
I mean, I feel like
it is strange.
And I feel like it's changed a little bit for the National League, where you have the DH now, and there's no reason like you couldn't utilize him as a DH because his offensive numbers are pretty decent. So I don't know. It just seems strange that all of those pieces are about to be officially gone, right? It's just like I don't remember. I don't recall that with other World Series teams. I know that didn't happen. With all the pieces
there
from
weren't
the
many
White Sox.
World Series teams that were that young that had everyone like leave, all those contracts expiring at almost the same time. So that's kind of a unique situation too. But I guess, I mean, specifically to this question, I think it is odd that they haven't even talked to his agent since 2017. But I think you're kind of lumping the others into a dissimilar situation, other than they were all on the World Series team. But
well, yeah, it wasn't Bryant though. Wasn't there like a stall in his contract talks too? I don't know. It doesn't matter. It's just weird. It's just weird to me that this is going to be the final piece to fall, and like,
yeah, I mean, they talked.
There's going to be no one left.
They had negotiations with Bryant. They had negotiations with Bryant. I mean, Javi was 1 week from signing until COVID hit. There's the 5-year, $75 million deal for Rizzo that he rejected. So it's not like they've shut them all out. So I don't know, but I'd be disappointed that they hadn't even like spoken to Contreras' agent if that's true. I hadn't seen that report, but
yeah,
I do follow Jesse Rogers.
Yeah, it's on the Twitter.
I respect him, so I don't call him a hack like you call most baseball journalists. So
I call Bob Nightingale, who will come on our show, a hack. Even though I rightfully asked him right on Twitter, never replied back.
Shocking.
I know. All right, enough about the Cubs.
Okay, thank you. I have some angst about the Cubs, but I have far more angst about my Detroit Tigers.
Ooh.
And actually, I mean, alleviated some of it with a walk-off win this afternoon over the playoff-bound San Diego Padres. By the way, the little tidbit: the Padres are now 1-8 in their history in Detroit, including a World Series loss you may or may not remember from 1984.
Oh, is that against the Padres? Huh?
It certainly was. You don't want to walk,
yeah.
Goose Gossage. But yeah, so I feel a little bit better about the Tigers. They could have actually swept this series. They came back in the 9th last night, only to blow it in the 10th. Gregory Soto, of course. But so I don't. It's just another part of the bizarre week of baseball where the bottom dwellers are beating up on playoff bound teams. Just a strange thing, but. The biggest story in Detroit broke, I believe it was yesterday on Tuesday, that an athletic report from Ken Rosenthal, who, if you call Ken Rosenthal a hack, I have nothing to say to you anymore. I mean,
I was Buster only as a joke. I called him a hack.
That's right. Yeah,
that's right. It wasn't Ken Rosenthal. It was only as a joke. Okay. But that was a joke. I said I'm joking.
I mean, Ken Rosenthal is the most trusted baseball journalist, maybe.
He's part of a great publication in The Athletic. It's top notch, folks.
Yeah,
top notch.
I'm a fan, but he gave me some bad news this week. Me and many Tigers fans that none other than Tarik Skubal is on the trading block, and quote unquote just about everyone else on the Tigers roster. Which I don't know. That kind of sounds like a complete rebuild to me. Does that to you?
Wait. It's over. But what they meant to say at the beginning of the season is the initial rebuild is over.
The first rebuild
is officially over.
Yeah, they're not lying. They were not lying at all. The first rebuild is 100% over. We are now embarking on the second rebuild.
Without a playoff team in between that.
Without a playoff team. We don't have a fucking winning season. The last 6 seasons have been losing seasons under Avila. You could argue we've been rebuilding for 7 years. I'm just going to say it's 6 years.
Pizza.
Yeah. So now with these are reports coming from rival GMs, but Avila had a no comment when he was asked about this.
So. Declined to answer.
Yeah, so I think that pretty much tells you where they are. The idea of them being open for business and everyone being on the table is not a bad idea at this point, as they're 20 some games below 500 and going nowhere again. I don't have an issue with that at all. I think that's probably the right strategy. The problem is you are letting someone that has proven beyond a shadow of a doubt he has no ability to make shrewd maneuvers to guide this franchise into a winning franchise. Avila is incompetent. We have established this. This is why I was calling for him to be fired over a month ago. I did not want him running the draft that we had 2 weeks ago that he has run. I surely did not want him running another fire sale, which he has shown beyond the shadow of a doubt. He is incapable of trading for assets that will build a winning team. And now he's going to do it again. And it's gross negligence is the only way I can describe it from ownership. Avila is going to do whatever he wants to, or whatever he can do to hold on to his job. He thinks he can turn it around. He might say they've had incredibly bad luck this year with injuries and underperformance by the entire fucking offense. No one living up to the back of their baseball cards. But at the same time, he's done nothing to shake things up. Even if it's purely symbolic, fire the fucking hitting coach. You're not going to fire all the players, and I don't want him to fire AJ Hinch. But there has been no action at all to change course, to fix this 100% broken team. The first time they're really acknowledging that is now that they're saying everyone is on the table, including Tarik Skubal. And that is the most disheartening name to come out of this. Yeah. And it was certainly the headline, because if you think about it, Tarik Skubal is the only one of the young core, supposedly core starting rotation of youngsters that has remained healthy and productive this year.
Well, he's remained healthy, and he's had 2 or 3 good outings in a row after having that.
He had a dip. He had a five start dip, and he's been back to his solid self. Before that, he was low 2 ERA, and should have been an all-star if he hadn't had that 5-game dip. Which, who knows? But he's turned it around.
We'll figure a way to use him in Chicago. Don't worry about it.
He is under control until 2026, and that is the other disturbing part.
Yes,
of this.
That makes that news makes no sense to me.
It makes sense if you think about it in terms of the Tigers ownership thinking, okay, we'll rebuild again, taking another 4 to 5 years.
I mean,
because
if that's
someone under control that is that good is of no value to you through 2026, that means they don't plan to win for another 4 years.
Right. That's true.
Are you fucking kidding me? I mean,
know.
This is where we're at. We are now, if that is literally how they're thinking, and Al didn't deny it, but it's still, these are just reports, and he has not been traded as of yet. But if Tarik Skubal is traded, this is the start of another at least 4-year rebuild. Is exactly what they're telling you. And
that's. I feel. I mean, for you,
it's disgusting.
As a fan, I feel actually bad.
I don't want your fucking pity, but thank you.
Smitty, I'm going to send you some flowers tomorrow.
Yeah.
Make sure you're there home to sign for them.
Well, I'm going on vacation. That's how I won't be here. So send all you want, but
no, your mom will like them.
I'm so ready for a fucking vacation now, but I mean, that's where we're at with, that report has, obviously circulated throughout Detroit media and social media and the radio. There is not nearly as well. There's some vitriol, but I feel like I'm as angry as anybody, because I think people have fucking completely checked out on the Tigers, and it's sad because we had a 10-year run where they ran the town, and the former owner, who is now deceased, Mike Ilitch, would spend far above their weight to make sure they had a contender for the city of Detroit, and they did it more times than not throughout that span. It is now proven, I think, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that his son is not up to that, is not willing to spend that kind of money, as he's ready to embark on another complete rebuild. The other part of this is, we've signed long-term deals with Javi Baez. Does that
maybe he's on the market?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what his trade value is right now. I think it's rather low, but I guess that wouldn't stop Avila from trying to trade him.
I like him at second for the White Sox.
I think more likely than not, he is going to be a Tiger for the next 5 years, which is another thing that makes me think they're just going to say we have to eat shit for the next few years and try to start all over again. And it's unreal. The other long-term contract that we signed this past offseason is Eduardo Rodriguez,
where is he?
There's news on that.
Oh,
actually, you haven't seen this.
No.
apparently just before the All-Star break, he was in communication finally with AJ Hinch and Chris Fetter, pitching coach Chris Fetter.
Nice.
After a 5-week incommunicado stage where the club had zero contact with Eduardo Rodriguez, reportedly due to some marital issues that he was dealing with, but he finally is in contact with the team, which is certainly good news, as opposed to them still not knowing where the fuck he is. Of course, the issue with that is he's now going to embark on a, basically spring training again. He's going to start in Lakeland, eventually do rehab starts in Toledo, and may be available by late August. Meanwhile, the craziest part of this is that it was revealed, and I guess people just did the math. Eduardo Rodriguez has been losing $75,000 per day as he has been away from the team, and they don't have to start paying him until he makes his first start or until he's activated onto the major league roster. So
you got that going for you.
Yeah, fortunately, he's got a $77 million deal, 5-year deal that, he took a chunk out of right there, but not too big of a chunk. I think he'll be all right, but it's just kind of amazing when you put things into that perspective. But that just kind of sums up the Tigers today. But to add insult to injury, I need to bring up one other news story of the day that you may or may not have heard yet, as it was just revealed this afternoon after today's game. Tigers are embarking on I believe it's a 4-game series in Toronto, where Toronto has been in the news a lot lately for teams traveling there and having up to 10 players, if you're the Kansas City Royals, that were unable to make the trip because they are unvaccinated and are therefore not allowed into Canada. Well, the Tigers have, of course, won. Fortunately, it's not 10 at least. So I feel a little better about that. But they have one prominent player who will not be making the trip. And it kills me because he's my cult folk hero, Andrew Chafin. He is not really by admission, but by omission is revealed that he is unvaccinated. He was interviewed after the game today and looked kind of like a deer in the headlights, which he typically doesn't, but it was obvious he was not very comfortable talking about it, which is fine. Again, this is an issue of personal choice, but at the same time, when you're part of a team, and some could say the society at large is being part of a team, he's choosing himself over his teammates. So I guess I didn't preface this the right way, but I am actually going to call Andrew Chafin my asshole of the week.
Yeah, playoff teams, especially if you're in the American League, you gotta question.
Yeah,
this is want to trade for him.
This is why I'm bringing up, and this is why I want to be consistent at least. he's one of my favorite players, as he was a Cub. He was also an A. And now he's on my Tigers. He is the reincarnation of Rob Beck, one of my favorite players of all time, shooter number 2. It's just disappointing as fuck. We have called other players who have been unvaccinated and thus potentially hurting their playoff chances for their team. We've called them assholes of the week. I didn't want to be a hypocrite and not call one of my favorite players our asshole of the week. It's a little different in that Detroit has no chance of making the playoffs. So that's where this story is going to really make headlines. If a star player has to miss a playoff series in Toronto because he chooses to be unvaccinated. Again, it's not that big a deal for the Tigers. It's just really disappointing. The other way he handled it was disappointing this afternoon. He said, his quote was, "It is what it is," which is the most annoying statement essentially you could possibly say. And, for such a big subject, just to kind of gloss over it, saying "it is what it is" disappointing. He had one other comment about here. I wrote it down. Oh, he called it an unfortunate situation.
Really? You can go get vaccinated. I mean, what's
Yes.
so unfortunate about
Not
it?
hard. I mean, it's free. They'll stick your arm. It takes about 5 minutes. I can't believe there are any
Yeah.
lines to get vaccinated these days. Um, it's just disappointing. I think it's probably overstating it, calling him an asshole of the week, but I have to do it. I'm also just angry in general. The Tigers are pissing me off. One of my favorite players is now pissing me off. So Andrew Chafin, you are my asshole of the week.
You haven't talked about all the big Tigers signing announcements of the week.
What are you talking about?
Daniel Norris is back. Jacob Barnes.
Enlighten us. Go ahead.
Chichi Gonzalez. They signed 3 pitchers. So if there was any question,
I heard about Daniel Norris. I didn't pay attention to the others, but
if there's any question if they're going to be moving guys on the pitching staff, that kind of seals the deal because they're going to need someone to come up.
I wasn't
and
questioning
pitch.
it, but yeah, I'm glad you're connecting the dots.
It's like oh, yeah, we signed 3 pitchers this week to minor league deals. So there you go.
I do like Daniel Norris, but he's proven not to be much of a major league pitcher. He's been one of my favorites since he was a Lugnut back in 2017, I believe. Lansing Lugnut, my hometown team that I actually do graphic design for, he was part of the Toronto Blue Jays organization, eventually making his way to the Tigers. He was traded, or was he let go, or where?
Well, he was last on the Cubs. He was on the Cubs. The Tigers got him back from the Cubs, which is right. Hilarious. But
wow. Yeah,
you guys
heard
like
that he came back.
Guys go back and forth. So
I mean, it really didn't hit my radar because who really gives a fuck anymore? But
yeah, true. I guess I feel your pain.
Yeah. Well, speaking of feeling pain, let us transition over to your San Francisco Giants.
Well, sell Mortimer, sell. The Giants today just lost their 7th game in a row. And last week I spoke about how they kind of held their own destiny as they were coming out of the break with a big series against the Dodgers. Well, they shit the bed on that. They just lost 3 straight games to the Arizona Diamondbacks.
That makes that's where it hurts. Like losing to the Dodgers, there's no shame in that, but Diamondbacks, that can't happen.
And Giants, welcome to the 2021 White Sox, as Carlos Rodón coming out of the break has had 2 shitty outings in a row. Let me tell you what happens in the next 2 starts. He gets shut down.
Ooh,
because boy. He had 1 good outing with the Sox last year after the All-Star break, then had 2 shitty outings, then had 1 more mediocre outing, and then he wasn't pitching but sporadically for the rest of the year.
What is his velo down? That was the other telltale sign with the Sox.
Yeah, I don't know if his velo's down. I didn't see what the velo was, but he's allowed 10 earned runs in 2 starts, 5 in each of them. But the big news out of the last start was he's obviously frustrated. He came in after the 2nd inning and after he let up a 2-run shot and blew up and was like smashing his glove, taking it out on the bench. But the more disturbing one was a little bit later in the game. In frustration, he kicked a bat in the dugout that went flying and hit starter Thairo Estrada in the knee.
No, taking out 2 stars.
But luckily, Estrada was fine.
Okay, that's ridiculous.
You watched it and were like, are you fucking kidding me? It's bad enough you're shitting the bed for your 2nd straight start.
Don't hurt anyone else doing it.
Yeah. Of course, Rodón, because he's a good dude. He said, unacceptable action. I hit a teammate, probably the nicest teammate on our team. So now I'm not sure how the other teammates feel after that, but just a selfish action that is unacceptable and cannot happen. And I take every amount of it. It cannot happen. I just feel stupid. So great. But you know what, dude? Like, maybe you're just on a little bit of a bad run or something. Whatever. I mean, I think in one of the games he still had like 8 strikeouts, so it's not like, that's an issue. But he's not commanding the ball, and that could be signs. I mean, if you're not commanding the ball, either it could be simply a mechanical issue, but it could be tiredness too,
Well,
So we'll see.
This leads me to my rather obvious asshole question. I mean, do you consider trading Carlos Rodón at this point?
I would, yeah. I would trade the guys you can get the most for, because now the Giants can hold on to the farm system that's going to be available to them next year.
Because that's really a larger question, is your sellers now at the trade deadline, where last week you were going to be buyers most likely. That's an interesting wrinkle that you're bringing up there. If you are sellers, you can sell. I mean, you can sell, from the major league roster, and then remain building that.
Yeah, those guys that I was talking about that are only like a year away.
Mm-hmm.
Why do that now?
So if you were buying, you'd be giving them away, and
yeah.
You're on the razor's edge, man. I mean, if you hadn't lost 7 games this week, do you think?
I mean, I mean, to be honest with you, as a Giants fan right now, we came on at the beginning of the year, and what we said was correct. Mm-hmm. We felt they were like sold their soul for last year.
It was fool's gold.
It was fool's gold. There's no way they were supposed to win 107 games. They are essentially the Jake Arrieta of baseball as far as, and what I'm saying about is they had an amazing year and a half of baseball. Like Jake had that one amazing year. I mean, they won the most games in all of baseball last year. And now as you hit the halfway point and they were still in it. And now they've just completely fallen off the table. And Jake's wasn't quite that aggressive, but I kind of drew the thing, like they had an amazing year and a half of baseball. If you look at the amount of wins they had accumulated over the first 82 of this year and the full season of last year, and great, it was great. But when you look at the construction of that roster, it didn't make any sense either.
Well, you're now no chance. Of course, there's no chance to win the division.
No, 17 and a half out.
You were 2.5 games out of the wild card slot. You were actually even behind Philly, who's still out of the last wild card slot. I think after today's events, you're at least going to be, you could be 3.5 games out. I think if anything, at least it gives you some clarity, because I feel like the last several years of the trade deadline, it's been a real debate whether you should be buying or selling. Of course, last year, I mean, that was a bit of a different story, but it really seemed like such an anomaly that you weren't even sure what was happening. But
yeah, I mean,
I remember having these conversations for some reason. I don't remember what your record was at the deadline, but it had to be fairly good. Well, I 107 wins, but
I think it was good. I think I think by the trade deadline, we were kind of like, all right, well, you got to buy, because you are in first place. I mean, I think they only had like a 2-game lead over the Dodgers, but they were still in first place. I mean, what are you going to, to me, it would look idiotic if you approach it.
But I feel like we've had this conversation over the years. Like, it seems like you're always on the edge.
They're on the edge, but I think there's other teams there's St. Louis isn't going to probably go away. Maybe Philly will go away. I mean, oddly, they're tied with St. Louis for the last spot. I just pulled it up. The Giants are 3 out of the last spot. Okay. Now, the part where it's going to get fuzzy is, I believe, don't they play the Cubs this weekend? I'm pretty sure.
I'm on vacation mode. I haven't looked at.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure they play the Cubs for 4 games.
Hot 6 wins in a row.
That's the thing. So if you get the 6th win in a row Cub team that comes in, then yeah, it is. It is the Cubs at home. So, I don't know what to think. Like, what will happen is you win 4 games, maybe all of a sudden you're like 1 game out of the wild card spot. Is that going to change your approach at the deadline? I think they should really look at, and we'll say, I'm going to use fool's gold again. I think they are stronger for the long haul with the fact that they were able to turn the farm system around in a shorter amount of time than expected, that they should hold on to those assets at the moment, because this is not a team. Logan Webb got lit up today by the Diamondbacks. I mean, all of their pitchers, it's Logan Webb and Rhoden, and then there's a bunch of question marks after that.
Right.
I mean, I would personally, as a Giants fan, I think they can be competitive again next year by actually holding on to their assets. So,
except for Rhoden.
Well, no, I meant like holding on to their minor league assets. They can bring those guys up and sell appropriately to get the most trade value as you can.
Well, back to my asshole question.
Yeah, I would trade
Rhoden. Rhoden's on he's got one more year left on this. What was it? $44 million deal.
Yeah.
So, what? I mean, do you think? What do you think you're going to get back for him, though? Or is he that's the other part of this? Is he worth holding on to just because you might not get that much for him? Or am I undervaluing him? The issue is you and I know him very well. I think anyone that's doing their homework knows who he is. He hasn't finished a whole fucking season in his entire career healthy. So, and if we haven't seen an actual injury report, but I mean, are we gonna judge these last two starts and just automatically say he's hurt and something's gonna happen? I think there's reason to. I don't, he hasn't proven, hasn't earned the benefit of the doubt. Are you gonna get that much for him if you do move him at this point?
I mean,
that's an impossible question to answer.
Yeah,
that's why it's asshole. But
no, but like, I think you could. I mean,
yeah.
If you just go based on overall performance from this year,
yeah, and if you look at the first half of last year and the first half of this year, that is a Cy Young Award winner.
Yeah, and they're pretty identical. And the starts out of the part where if I'm gonna call the Giants and ask about Rhoden, but if I'm considering Rhoden to try to take my team to the next level, the thing I'm looking at is, wow, this is eerily similar right now to his two starts after the break with the White Sox last year.
Mm-hmm.
So that, to your point, does he hold that value? But we see people overpay for if there's anything that gets overpaid for, it's definitely pitching.
Well, if he hadn't had these two poor starts and all of a sudden he went onto the market,
yeah,
he would be the best pitcher available on the market.
Yeah.
So maybe we're overreacting to these two starts, but and to our intimate knowledge of how he has performed down the stretch every fucking year as in his professional career.
And the thing he can do too, there is an opt out for 23, but it's with him. It's a player opt out. Yeah. Once
that's the other thing.
Contingent on him pitching at least 110 innings, which I think he hit already.
That's another mitigating factor. That's a lot of money to eat unless the Giants are willing to pay a lot of that, maybe to get something better. I think that's how they could negotiate into a favorable position. But
yeah,
I don't know. I thought it was worth bringing up.
Yeah, I would try to trade him personally if they think they can get like some big, at least even one maybe near MLB ready asset out of someone to really make a decent flip into next year.
I think that's a reasonable position, but it's just amazing what a difference a shitty week makes at this time of year. I mean, you were on top of the a-hole standings until yesterday. You weren't going to be doing anything in the division, but I think you had a very solid chance in the wild card, and that seems to be slipping away too. But like we said, maybe it's a blessing in disguise because I feel like the Giants are always on the razor's edge when it comes to the trade deadline, and maybe this has lended some clarity to your position.
Yeah. Well, I'm hopeful. So that's all I got for the 7 in a row out of the All-Star break losing Giants.
Yikes. Well, I'm going to move to the other side of the bay with a 3-game winning streak for my fucking A's. A 3-game winning streak comes against I would argue, one of the best teams, if not the best team in all of Major League Baseball, the Houston Astros. And just another example this week alone of baseball is just fucking weird. I would have never predicted that. They won every game by 2 runs, I believe. I didn't really pay too close attention because I wasn't expecting them to win a single game. Again, the only way I can sum this up is baseball's fucking weird.
Especially this year.
The other weird bit of news that came out this week that was actually more football related, which you and I need to talk about when we're going to fire up our football podcast, the Limp Ditka's podcast, again for the 2022 season.
November, maybe, by the time baseball's over. I don't know.
We're going to have a lot of baseball to talk. We have 2 baseball podcasts now. I don't know if we can fit in a football podcast at the same time, but we'll figure this out. But I'm not sure if you heard, but one Kyler Murray, the quarterback for the Arizona Cardinals, signed a massive deal extension with the ball club that pays him $46 million per year.
Yeah, that's more than your entire team, right?
Yeah, you may or may not remember Kyler Murray was also drafted by my fucking A's and turned them down.
Right. That's right. I did not remember that, but I do now.
He decided to go into the NFL, which is a curious decision. Not curious, but obviously it was absolutely the right decision to make as of this week. He won the Heisman, I believe, too, in college. But I was just thinking back to your Giants. We had similar conversations about Jeff Samardzija as he was coming out of college. Tight end for your Notre Dame Fighting Irish. I thought at least at that point, it was an obvious great decision to move to baseball because of the longevity. Playing football, your average career is maybe 3 years, maybe less. Not highly paid compared to baseball players, but at least starting pitchers in baseball. It just seemed like an obvious decision for Samardzija, at least, to go into Major League Baseball, and that proved to be correct. As he was, how would you summarize Samardzija's career? He had like moments where he was really on the radar as one of the better starters. He played for your White Sox, my Cubs, and your Giants. He signed a big time deal with your Giants. Where is he at now? Is he totally out of the league, or what's he doing?
Yeah, I believe he's out of the league. Maybe he's down in Mexico.
Well, he made millions. Did he? He got close to $100 million over his career, I bet. I forget how much.
Yeah, the Giants contract was pretty high.
Yeah, so he made the right decision. So it kind of got into my mind that every two sport college player should always choose baseball because the contracts are guaranteed, and typically the careers are a little bit longer and everything else. So that is not the case, at least if you are a quarterback in the NFL, as Kyler Murray signed for $46 million per year, which you mentioned is more than the entire payroll of the 2022 Oakland A's, which sits right now, I believe it sits at $42 million.
Oh,
so yeah,
it's getting up there.
The irony that's
well, it's only $42 million till August 2nd.
Yeah. Yeah, that fluctuates throughout the year based on what who's on the roster and what moves they have to make. But yeah, so congratulations, Kyler Murray, for not signing with my fucking A's. You made the right decision. I think he's kind of a mediocre quarterback, though. So I mean, NFL is just bizarre.
He's got great fantasy value. Fantasy value because he runs.
Didn't show up in the playoffs this year, but that's a whole nother
fantasy
podcast.
Football's over at that point.
That's a whole nother podcast. But so that was some fucking A's, but it was also basically some shit I couldn't make up, which actually transitions us into our favorite segment, shit we couldn't make up.
Yeah. So I want to start off with something SportsCenter brought up. I think it was in lieu of like who's not in the Hall of Fame, which we were covering about Minnie Minoso and the travesty of one Barry Bonds not being in the Hall of Fame. And This is the craziest. I don't even. I'm actually embarrassed that I didn't know this stat, but
there's lots of crazy stats with Barry Bonds that will blow your mind. So I can't wait to hear this one.
So in 2004, he had 373 official at bats. Yeah, essentially because of how much he was walked.
How many times he walked? Yeah.
But he reached base safely 376 times.
Oh my God. So wait, that makes what was his OBP that year?
I didn't even go and look at that. I was just like, my mind just like went.
Yeah, that just exploded my brain.
Freaking bonkers. This is a Sports Center like nugget, like that. I was like, what? So that was that's definitely shit we couldn't make up. And
wow, yeah.
Again, a glaring strike against the sports writers. In a little bit more of a local shit we could make up. I just want to have a little bit of fun here. Do you remember the Tommy Pham, Jock Peterson, infamous slap in the face?
The pimp slap heard around the world.
And that was it was a fantasy football blow up. It was about hoarding guys on your IL. Well, I just want to call out some roster problems with Major League A-holes, which is originally our fantasy
baseball league.
Yeah, that eventually then turned into also our blog, which is now a podcast. So
Podcast Empire.
When you come up with such a great name, you just, kind of blow it out everywhere. So
thank you, George W. Bush.
Yeah, we got Vit, who was
he's kind of like the third wheel of this. I think we brought Vit up on this podcast, a buddy in our league here, probably more often than any of our other buddies, but he's
hoarding some IL guys. We got Sam. Sam, I know you listen. So Sam, your roster's a fucking disaster. So let's get this shit in order. All right, guys.
Well, okay. Veneri was what? He was holding on to Yasmani Grandal.
Vit, not Veneri, me. I'm Veneri.
Vit was
holding on to Grandal for the last like 3 or he came back. He's had him on the IL since he came back on Friday.
Okay, he claims he was only on the IL, like he had only forgotten for like 3 days, and then Vit was telling me I needed to start policing other ne'er-do-wells in our league, and I mentioned that I saw that Sam had a disaster of a roster where he hadn't moved any of his players off of IL after they
IL. He had guys on the bench. I think who the frick has guys on the bench? We don't even have a bench.
I don't know how that happened, but I'm going to blame myself as commissioner of the league. I am not policing this well enough. Vit also left me a voicemail blaming me.
Oh, well, yeah. Why would he take any? He's the one who didn't activate him, but it's your fault.
Sam replied to my text message immediately and said he would remedy it, although I haven't seen that he's actually done that, but I appreciate the response at least.
He's a firefighter. Maybe he was putting out a fire, Smitty.
That's the thing. I gotta give him a benefit of the doubt. Vit gets no benefit of the doubt.
No, Vit gets no benefit of the doubt.
But yeah, especially since I pointed out he needed to fix his roster, and the first thing he told me is that other people are doing the same thing. Like, we're all old men. We are not children. Take responsibility for your fantasy teams.
I'm ready to blow up.
Don't point fingers.
I'm ready to come back and really co-commission with you and blow up the rules of this league next year. I think we got to get to where we're supposed to be mimicking baseball, and the fact that some people don't have any relievers on their team is not mimicking baseball. So I think we need to put in a minimum amount of relief innings or something as part of the rules, because the reason we added holds.
Yeah, I was going to say I tried to mitigate that with holds.
Try to do this, but again, Vit has no relievers on his team.
I don't have any relievers, but I'm also
bucking the system.
I always make rules because I always have a strategy to break the rules.
That's how you've won all these years.
I've won more championships than anyone else in our league history.
Well, guys, you may see an investigation on national TV looking into MLA's practices. I'm calling on the government to right this ship.
We have loyal followers here on the podcast, but it's a small number. We have an even smaller number who give a fuck about our fantasy baseball league. But
really, yeah, there's like 4 of us who care.
thank
I
you.
think.
Thank you for listening. We will no longer talk about MLA, the fantasy league, but
Just wanted to have a little bit of fun this week. I really
yeah,
don't even
I mean, it's
care all that
Christmas in
much.
July. Like we just passed Christmas in July, so this may have been Festivus in July, where we can air the grievances. Yeah, I feel better after doing this podcast because there were many grievances to air in real baseball and fantasy baseball.
I gotta say, the best thing about this podcast was I did not have to talk about the White Sox. So,
boy.
But I did want to do one thing before we say good night or good day. Was
a good day to you.
A good day to you was that MLB. I finally got around to, on MLB TV, has this new show, and for you football fans, you may be familiar with the NFL RedZone, which goes to key moments in football games.
Everyone knows what the Red Zone is.
Mostly scoring opportunities. Well, MLB finally got on board with Big Innings, and I had not watched it yet.
I saw an ad for this.
I watched it the other night, and it was fucking incredible.
That's
cool.
If
you want, it's great for fantasy baseball. It's all the key stuff happening. It's not like, you know how the network has their like show where they peek in at games, but then you go back and you got to listen to the guys to discuss different scenarios in baseball or whatever. This is literally just going game to game to game when
with runners in scoring position.
Saves about to happen.
Okay.
I got to watch Milwaukee beat the Twins the other night. It was good coverage, and they're just bouncing around. And
this is on the MLB app.
It's on the MLB app. Yeah, MLB.TV, the app. Basically, if you subscribe,
you have to have the subscription. Okay.
Yeah,
I get it.
But it's phenomenal. I loved it. I will be tuning in some more. So
that's a cool thing. I saw an ad for it. I didn't really pay attention. I feel like they've had something like this before, and maybe they're just like revamped it, or
they revamped it in that on the network when they're doing MLB Tonight, they do those look-ins, but they don't. And maybe it's for contractual reasons because it's on regular television. They don't like just bounce around to games like boom, 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 just like the RedZone does. But now,
maybe they won't, just to make sure you get the MLB TV subscription. Yeah, so they're not going to give that shit away for free.
Exactly. It's great. So check it out if you guys get a chance.
It's a good tip. Thank you.
That is all I've got for this week.
Well, as I mentioned, I am going on vacation. I'm heading to Maine for a fishing trip, fishing, camping. I think we're whale watching even. We're going to get some lobster.
Sounds romantic. Make sure you get a nice red.
There will be many IPAs drank, New England IPAs. We are already planning out the brewery tour.
Actually, I think a chilled white goes better with the lobster, Smitty. Just so you guys know.
White IPA. I don't know what that is, but we're starting out in Portland, Maine. Going through we're going to be in Boston, Portland, Maine, Bangor, Bar Harbor. We'll figure it out. But I am going to be gone for a total of 2 weeks. We will not be podcasting for about 2.5 weeks at this point. So unfortunately, episode 111, as we are wrapping up now, will be the last one until mid-August. So sorry for that. I had to go on vacation. I don't have a laptop. I think I could probably podcast if I had a laptop, but I do not own a laptop.
Maybe Callahan should buy you one.
Yeah, you can go work on that for me. But I kind of need to unplug from baseball in general. I'm kind of looking forward to this, considering how shitty every team I root for is. So I'll come back rejuvenated, fired up. It'll be post trade deadline, so the entire baseball landscape will be radically different. So it's hard to predict what we'll be talking about in 2.5 weeks. So it's probably the worst time to be taking a vacation. Did this the same time last year due to Callahan's itinerary planning. So we'll see how it works out, but we'll be back. We are not done. If you don't see us for a while, that is why we are on vacation, or I am on vacation. It's not Pete's fault. It's my fault. In the meantime, I will not be going to Fenway Park, as I've called that a shithole. I have no interest in seeing that ballpark again. I've been there twice in my life. I'll be in the vicinity, but I will not go again. But Other than that, anything else you'd like to say before we sign off for 2.5 weeks?
No, if you want to get any insight on trades or whatever, you'll have to go over to @SoxTypeThing on Twitter, where I will be posting some videos on there to kind of bridge the gap during this time. And Smitty,
check out @SoxTypeThing on Twitter. You were going strong. You've got more followers over there than we've gotten on in the whole Major League A-holes on Twitter over the last 10 years almost. So you're killing it over there. Check out @SoxTypeThing. You're not going to see a whole lot on social media from me. Maybe you will. Maybe I'll get into that.
Yeah, maybe.
We'll see. But in the meantime, you can catch both these podcasts anywhere you'd like to find a podcast. Not for a couple weeks, but check out our archive. We have 7 episodes of Sox Type Thing. And this is, again, episode 111 of In the Hole, which is kind of unbelievable. But you can find us, again, on social media @SoxTypeThing and Major League A-holes. You can find us on the web @SoxTypeThing.com and MajorLeagueA-holes.com. And I think with that, I'm going to declare this podcast is over. Peace.
Peace.
Word Hole Media.